Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Engineer Asterisk Plays, once again Kerbal Space Program. We all know the drill: start the game, load an existing save. I will have to go over a few things before I really get into it, because I tried to record this once before, and turns out I goofed on something. So I have to go ahead and go over some of the things I did in the beginning of that. In between episodes, I gathered nearly 300 science by sending a probe to the Mun. Now, there's a little trick to that. I'll show you that a little bit later on. Well, I should say go over it. But I did research landing, so I get some landing gear, and I got a micro landing strut for tiny little probes and things like that. And that leads to advanced landing, which gives me access to a drogue chute, as well as more landing struts, I guess heavier duty landing struts. I also grabbed space exploration, which got me the too hot thermometer, which is worth a fair amount of science. And then, of course, this also points to the same thing as electrics, which is advanced exploration, which will eventually get me a barometer, which will be very handy later on when I start exploring some of the gaseous worlds. With my extra money, I went and got fuel systems. Fuel systems gives me access to RCS, which is basically little gas thrusters to push me around in orbit for rendezvous and things like that, as well as ways to move fuel around my vehicles. I have no use for it as of yet, and it does lead to these two, but they're grayed out, oddly enough. I don't know what that means unless I need to get this. In addition to that, I don't know. We'll find out. Carrying on, let's head into... oh, and another thing I did, I actually goofed a second time. My capture was off, so I went and threw this guy, where is it? Near Space Probe 1.0, which I should rename, into orbit. It is headed for Minmal. Minmal being the second moon of Kerbin. So it's got a couple days to get there. I'm going to speed it up and get it there for the landing, for the conclusion of this. But yeah, we'll just let that go for now. It basically upgraded my my science probe, my Mun probe from before, with the too hot thermometer and a little bit extra fuel to get it there. But yeah, that's about it. Nothing real spectacular. My Moon orbiter is still going strong. Here's the trick I told you about. You can get very, very different science close to the Mun as opposed to far from the Mun. Right now I'm close to the Mun, so I can get some pretty valuable stuff. That's actually how I want, a big part of how I wound up with the 300 to spend. Let's see, here's my, let's observe some Mystery Goo. Mystery Goo is worth something again. You know, it's less dense, this close to the Mun. And since there's no atmosphere, you don't have to worry about aerobraking your way onto its surface by accident, like I've done before around Kerbin. I'm going to transmit that. Let's see. Where is... There it is. Science Junior. I'll observe some materials bay. This isn't, worth a whole lot percentage-wise, but it does have a high scientific value, so we're just going to transmit that. And speaking of scientific value, the 0.23 Kerbal Space Program update has been announced, but there's no firm date for it just yet. They're going to add a bit more challenge to the game, make it so you can tweak some additional things, like you can make rear-wheel drive rovers and things like that, and some other stuff I didn't actually read yet, but I'm sure it's interesting. And basically make science harder to get, especially with the antennae. You can't just send antennae everywhere and get all the science that you could possibly need. Having dishes and stuff is going to be very, very important. So observe some more materials here. But as this carries on outward in its orbit to Apoapsis, look at the orbit map, as it heads out here, you'll actually be able to get a different set of scientific data. So make sure you have a nice elliptical orbit so that you can get this data, then that data, then this data, then that data, then this data, then that data. And that way, you get lots and lots of science. Cool stuff. Now, moving along, what else have I been doing? Yes, back on Kerbin. Let's head back to the place with the radar dishes and the such. Come on, let me in. Yeah, here we go. My Kerbin probes, I've gone and recalled. The Highlands Explorer wasn't really paying out a whole lot anymore, so I called Bill back. And this guy, the Kerbin Crater, there's actually an impact crater on the surface of Kerbin. You've probably seen it if you've orbited it quite a bit, as I have. And I decided to challenge myself off the air and try to bullseye it with a rocket and a lander and a Kerbal, and basically just get me some crater science. Unfortunately, crater science is the same as Highland science, so it wasn't worth a whole lot scientifically. But it's fun to do. Like I said, I did record it. Maybe I'll post it with a commentary or a soundtrack or something. It's a fairly short video, so that will come later. Let's see. On the surface here, got my unmanned test plane. I was experimenting with test planes a bit. Now, I didn't have landing gear at the time, so I made like a detachable ski using girders and decouplers, and it worked fairly well. It doesn't take off very well, but if you get it to the end of the runway, you can get a bit of lift, a bit of air under the wings. Well, winglets. It's really more of a rocket-powered guided missile than it is an actual space plane. Now, that does give me a bit of science, especially just laying here in the ocean. This materials bay is actually still worth a bit of science. I don't think did it bring any goo? Yeah, there's some goo on the back side here. I don't think it's worth anything though. It's already observed. Yep, worth bollocks. But yeah, it's unmanned, and yeah, it just kind of floats here. Gets me some science. It's got a couple antennae. Cool stuff. Moving right along, back to the Space Center. And we're going to go into the astronaut complex because Jebediah Kerman, remember how I mentioned I'd lost him before under the ice? Well, apparently he's been recovered or has made a miraculous resurrection, because here he is. Jebediah Kerman, with the same level of courage and stupidity, doesn't show up as lost, instead shows up unavailable. So I didn't actually have to hire Camwell, but it doesn't cost me anything, so I'm going to hold on to him. It's a cool name. Bob and Bill are back in too, so eventually I'll start sending out more manned missions, especially since I have those EVA ladders, which could be very, very handy. Now, let's get that probe to Minmus. Well, let's rename it first, because near space probe is kind of lame. Let's see. I should have called it 1.2 as well, because I upgraded it slightly. So let's go to fly. Alright, now to rename probes, I don't know if everyone knows this, just right-click on the core of the probe, in this case, the Staputnik, and hit Rename Vessel. And you can rename it whatever you want. You can even change its classification. This is going to be Minmus Orbiter 1. Cool stuff. Now have a properly named probe. Now let's take some measurements. Now out here in interplanetary space, you can get a bit more science out of this goo. The materials will also be irradiated and glowing, which is always fun. Gets you a bit of science there as well. And throw out our 2 hot here. Get a log. Why did that not log? It's really cold here. Negative 197. Okay, why did that not let me transmit? That's weird. Temperature scan can't be done right now. I guess it's too cold for the too hot. It just kind of sounds weird. No, I have plenty of electric charge. No sunlight though. Gets on the other side of what is that? Is that Kerbin? I don't even know. I don't know where I am. Orbit map. Yeah, it's Kerbin. I'm still close by. So let's go ahead and speed this up, and I'll meet you when we're closer to Minmus. Alright, we've now been captured by Minmus. We're going to go ahead and do the same procedure we did for the Mun. Let's see, we're going to pull up this guy. So we're heading this way relative to Minmus. set up a little maneuver here. Bring this in. So this requires a bit more velocity change than I had thought, so I might be leaving a bit of debris out here, which is unfortunate, but can't be helped. Just for science. Let's see, spin this way. And there we go. And there we go. I said, and there we go. I'm going to take some science real quick. Oh, we're all the way out here. And we got plenty of sunlight. Ooh. Oh, wow. This is some significant science we got going on out here. I like it. Mr. Goo, what's Mr. Goo have to say? Wow. Just wow. I'm going to be sciencing all the way to the node. So, I'll see you there. Alright, so as it turns out I kind of burned myself out of electric charge doing all the science. So, I'm just going to go ahead and get this burn on. In fact, it's already started. So we're going to bring this this escape around. So it's over here, and then once we're close to periapsis, we'll tighten it up. Nice and gentle. Alright. There we go. That'll do. Just going to speed this up a bit. A little bit of fuel left in this stage, and maybe I can pull this off with what I got. This is the one trouble with flying out this far. Things just move a bit more slowly. In fact, a lot more slowly. Past that. We're close to periapsis. We'll add another maneuver. That's the one I want. Oh, that. Oh, oh, oh. Just need to orbit. Touchy. Just because of the weird angle I have it at. Settle for that. A little bit of a burn. Shouldn't be too bad. Speed it up. Oh man, I got a lot of science. Like a lot of science. 12 hours. Keep an eye on the clock down here. We'll science it up. I can't science it up when I'm sped up, apparently. There we go. I'm actually going to tighten this up a little bit more than I'd planned, just so I can get that nice elliptical that I had going on at the MUN. Get some varied science going on. Come on, tuck it in. Tuck it in. So 400,000 meters. Wow. Distances out here, man, they're crazy. Now, don't think Minmal has an atmosphere. I think it's another rock like the MUN. It might even be closer to our own Earth's MUN here in the real world. There. 100 kilometers should be a good periapsis for now. Still have a bit of fuel in these tanks. This is crazy. Let's see if we can get a look at it from here. It's still a good distance away. Some science while we're out here. Let's see, how much is Mystery Goo worth here? Yeah, we're still in interplanetary space, so not a whole lot. Materials Bay. Transmit data. Alright. So we're 3 days out from Kerbin. I'm going to go get rid of this guy. Bring it in a bit closer. So we're 7 hours away. Man, these orbits. It's all kinds of eccentric, too. Eccentric meaning that it's at an angle relative to the plane of the Kerbal system. Come on. Bring it in. Preferably a little faster. Jump it, jump it. Tease it. Alright, we're going to swing this around until we're pointing at retrograde. Here it is. Too far. I'm going to tighten this up so I can skim the surface, as it were. A little bit of trouble with the whole orbital thing, probably because I keep changing my orientation. Alright, so we're still 19 minutes away from periapsis. Bring it a little bit closer. And we'll go and tighten it up. Oh, okay. That's quick. How close can we go? Sure, about 20,000 should be good. Yeah, this is pretty much just a rock. Let's take a look from our Minmal orbiter. Staging. That should be Kerbin. That should be the Mun. And that is Minmal. Wow, that is very green. I wonder if it's made of cheese. Someday, I will be landing some manned missions instead of just sending probes all over the place. But until that time, let's take a look at some mystery goo. Apparently not worth that much more than it is around the Mun. Can I use my too hot yet? No. I wonder why not. Is it just too low? It's playing 0. It is 0 degrees. It's a little crazy. Turn the display on? I don't even know. Something I have to keep warm. Beats me. Let's get a bit closer then. Maybe take a look at the Terminator. Alright, slow down, cowboy. So now that we're a lot closer to Minmal, let's see what our goo can tell us. Alright, goo is worth something again, which means our materials should also be worth something again. If I can get to it, there it is. Sweet. So this is considered near Minmal. Maybe if I bring in the other side of the orbit as well. Tiny little bit of fuel left. It'll be considered far from Minmal and get me even more science. You're like 70,000? 70,000 sound good? Sounds good. Alright. Gather some science. This has been Engineer Asterisk Plays Kerbal Space Program, a successful probe to Minmal. Maybe next time actually start docking some things together. You know, play with a bit of Rendezvous, RCS, things like that. Like, favorite, subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. And, last but not least, have a nice day.